Welcome to the Mosaic Minute. My name is Jeff Bounds. I'm the Vice President of Client Engagement and Marketing. And I am super excited today because we're going to talk about a topic that every single one of you guys has been asking about for quite some time. It's crunch time right now. It's crunch time on year end. And today I have a guest on that I'm super excited for all of you guys, first and foremost, to know and then to hear what she has to say. So Aimee Morgan is our guest today. She is one of the most tenured, actually one of the initial employees here at Mosaic. She's been with the organization for 8 years. But most importantly, the topic that we're going to speak to today, she has 26 years of experience around this. And for me, and I think for most of you that are going to listen to this, it's extremely important because I was told a long time ago, be careful where you get your information from, because there's a lot of information out there now, and many things going on the internet. But Aimee has done this at an extremely high level here, not only with Mosaic, but inside of her career. She also specializes in payroll and timekeeping. So with that being said, Aimee, welcome to the Mosaic Minute.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So I guess the first question I have to ask is, I know you have a passion for this. So why don't we start off a little bit in talking about year end, why it's a passion for you, and one of the reasons that you wanted to get on here today to discuss this with all of our followers.
So many years ago, when I was a young, impressionable child, I got promoted from an accounts payable assistant to the payroll manager of a multi-state and technically multi-company fast food chain. I got there just in time to do year end. Back in the bad old days, W-2s were printed on a dot matrix printer. We spent 2 days holding them to make sure the tension stayed right, so they went through. Very old school. You really had to know what you were doing. And I was dropped on my head as a child, so I really enjoyed it. And so payroll taxes is one of the things that I think is a fun thing. And year end is really just the culmination of a year's worth of payroll taxes. So
yeah. And there's something really interesting you just said there that I think as we get into this is also important, is as you go back and you reflect over time, just on many different things, no different than what we're talking about today. You actually were in this in the beginning when it was a lot of hands on keyboard, a lot of effort that's being put into it. And then over time, it's evolved. But I think, at least in my experience, sometimes when you start off like that in the grassroots, it gives you a different appreciation, but it also gives you the opportunity to explain this to people in a way that a lot of people that haven't gone through that aren't able to express. So yeah, definitely come a long way. So I guess with end of year, and we're going to get started now and kind of speaking to this, what would you say are the couple of things that, I guess, with people, this being top of mind, they should be thinking into right now? And what would you say to a lot of people maybe today that are feeling a little overwhelmed by this?
Don't worry about it. It's only year end. So year end is really, it's the true up of everything you've done all year. It's making sure your earnings are correct, your deductions are correct, your taxes are correct. That's the important part. And so it is a lot of work. There's a lot of number crunching and stuff like that. I'm just going to say stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do. But the thing is, if you start now, it's only October. If you start now, you have 3 months basically to get it done. And you can start looking now. What needs to be fixed now? So, okay, that's good. Now I only have to worry about things that arise in November and December. And that's a lot shorter period of time than having to look at the entire year. And as with a lot of things, it is easier to fix a 2023 error in 2023 than it is to fix it in 2024. So
that's some gold right there.
Yes.
I'm going to have you say that one more time because that just hit me like a hammer.
It is easier to fix a 2023 error in 2023 than it is to do it in 2024.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the way to start it off. So going into it, preparing for the end of year.
Right.
Let's get started.
Okay, let's get started. We can go to our first tab if we want. So I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're not just a total geek about year end like I am, you're also a UKG client. UKG has some really good tools for year end. And for most people, the place to start is the year end checklist. They have two of them. They have a US, they have a Canada. They're already out there. Just go to the community hub, search 2023 year end checklist, and you'll get your choice, US or Canada. You can print them out, and I normally do print them out so I can write on them what needs to be done, who's doing what. But you can also save it on your computer as a PDF because it is linkable and it connects everything up. So this is the beginning of the year-end checklist. And as you can see, they have two different indicators on every task you're going to see. They're either going to tell you it is a recommended task. It's a really good idea to do this, but you don't have to. Or they're going to tell you it's a required task, and here's the due date. So that's a good thing to keep an eye on. Look at your due dates, map them out on your calendar. And if we want to go on to the next tab, you can kind of see how it works. Starting in November, and a lot of this, please go ahead and start it now. The earlier, the better. So you can see the first thing is optional. It's creating your year-end team. In my history, it has always been a team of me, but some people are lucky and they have other people to assist. So make your team, make sure they know that they're part of your team. You don't want to surprise somebody with their sudden need to provide information to you. And you'll notice under resource on there, get started with year end is in blue. That's a hot link. So if you've got this saved as a PDF on your computer, when you click that, it's going to take you to the resource on the community page with everything you need to know to do this step. You'll notice the next one is important. If UKG is not printing your W-2s, you need to order your forms. Earlier the better, because there tends to be a rush and you really don't want to be getting these, in the middle of January. You can order directly from UKG. UKG will send you the forms that are perfectly formatted for the way UKG's W-2 print file comes out. So.
Yeah, so it's interesting because a lot of I believe what we get coming through, and correct me if I'm wrong, here's some of the typical questions. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people don't even understand what year end is, number one, believe it or not. And then number two, here's the part that drives me crazy, and you're probably the same way, is, I always try to get ahead of things, and I always try to figure out, like, when I know what's lying in front of me, what I need to do to get engaged, but then also think about potentially the things that can come into play along the way that could be landmines I need to prepare for. But mm-hmm. I think a lot of people think, because they dread year end, they're like, oh my God, what's the deadline, right? Instead of thinking about when is a time for me to really focus on when does the pre-planning start and when is a launch, and then the end is the outcome. Mm-hmm. But instead of them thinking about what lies ahead and getting that proper preparation in, they're in more reactive mode. Do you see that a lot?
Yes. And that is not the way to do year end. So there are some hard deadlines. Most of them are, everybody knows W-2s have to be postmarked no later than January 31st, unless it's a Sunday and then it becomes February 1st. Everybody knows that one. You're filing your fourth quarter and your annual taxes, unemployment, federal unemployment. Those are normally around the middle of the month. It's pretty much the same date every month or every quarter. Federal income tax. Federal income tax is the one fun one. Depending on how large your company is, how large your payroll is, your taxes are due either between the day after your payday and a week after your payday. So, which is why I say you want to get your 2023 stuff done in 2023, because if you're making a correction in 2023 for 2023 in 2024, and there are federal taxes involved, you're already late making those payments. Late payment, penalties and interest. So you really want to avoid those as much as possible. The other deadline that is super important to keep in mind, if UKG is printing your W-2 forms, they will finalize your W-2s on January 8th. Whether you're ready or not, they will finalize them, which means they're like, yep, it's closed. We're going to go print them now. If you know you've got a lot of adjustments you need to do, if you know you've got to allocate tips or do anything else that you frankly can't even start until the beginning of January, you need to open the case now and tell them not to finalize your W-2s. They're going to push back and say, oh, we can't print them in time. Well, it's a lot better than having to do W-2Cs for 300 employees because you couldn't get your stuff done in time. So that's an important thing. If you're not going to make that January 8th deadline, tell them now not to finalize your W-2s.
Now, is this universal knowledge or is this Aimee knowledge?
So I will tell you that the automatically finalizing your W-2s was something I learned last year when it came and bit one of my clients in the seating area. So it was not a thing they did when I was doing this for a living. When I was a payroll manager using UKG, we finalized by the 23rd, I believe, just so they could get them printed. Mm-hmm. But in their streamlining, and if they're doing your taxes, they really just want to get the stuff done. So they started pushing for a hard deadline. And then last year they just said, nope, we're doing it for you. If you're not ready, we're doing it for you. So, and a lot of people really don't realize that.
Interesting. So that would be something with everybody watching today. And one of the reasons why many people will come to a group like Mosaic mm-hmm. and partner up around this, because I'm learning a lot of new information, just listen to this for first glance. But I think about a lot of the organizations that are out there that maybe have had new people come in that have not mm-hmm. done year in that organization before, maybe are new to year end in general. And it's just another one of the testaments of why organizations like us assist, is because mm-hmm. there's so many complexities in it. That's something right there that I think everybody that's watching this probably will be like a scratching the head moment of like, I wonder if we know this internally. So yeah. Very, very interesting. So there's definitely some complexity involved in this.
There is. If you've got a consistent head count, you haven't done any expansion, you haven't added any earnings deductions, none of that stuff, odds are your year end this year is going to go smooth because any problems have already been resolved. But if you've added a new component company, if you've expanded into new markets, if you've suddenly increased your head count, if you have people who travel a lot or who relocated, I know this is a big thing doing the 2020 year-end stuff because a lot of people decided to move during COVID. If you have any of those things that happen, then there are things that you really need to make sure have been done. And they're part of the steps in here. There are reports that you run to make sure all of your taxes are set up. There are reports that you run to make sure all of your earnings and your deductions are set up properly. Because if they're not, the only way to fix them is to reverse payrolls and put them back in. And that is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you want to find this stuff now. Grab the list, start going through it, do as much of it as you can ahead of time, and then just know that some of it you're going to do again because you want to catch November, December, make sure you've got everything. But do as much of it as you can now. And then, of course, if you have questions, you reach out to us. That's what we're here for.
Yes. But
Yeah,
it's kind of the precursor to my next question,
yeah.
which is if a company has an acquisition, and you spoke to this a little bit, or they're moving into those states, what should they be looking for? And if I'm not mistaken, I believe one of the states that has a lot of complexity is New York.
I like to think of Pennsylvania as the worst.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So a lot of times what happens, and anybody who's ever set up in a new state knows, you can't apply for your unemployment number in a state until you've started paying people. Well, you can't pay people without that code being set up. So let's say Mosaic just moved in. We just hired our first employee in Hawaii. Well, we had to pay that Hawaiian employee and then apply for the Hawaii taxes. So in order to pay the employee, we set up the Hawaii unemployment and maybe even the Hawaii state income tax, and the tax number was applied for. Perfectly legit. People do this all the time, but you may have forgotten to go in and update that when you got the actual numbers, the account numbers from the Hawaii Department of Labor and et cetera. So one of the reports that you run is actually looking for applied for, making sure all of those get fixed. Another thing I recommend is send a communication to all of your employees now and make sure, have them look at their address, make sure their address is correct in the system and their taxes are correct in the system. For instance, if you move from Tennessee to Kentucky, you want to make sure we've got Kentucky as your address, obviously, so you can get your W-2. You also want to make sure that we're withholding your Kentucky taxes. Or if you move the other way, that we've stopped withholding your Kentucky taxes. And again, fix it in 2023 because 2024 is a pain.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about, this is what we call the enterprise checklist. But if you go to the next screen, if you're a mid-market client, they have a really cool tool, and I wish they'd roll it out for everybody. It's called the Year-End Gateway. It's probably, I know it's already out there for 2023. If this is not your company's first year-end with UKG, you're already going to be able to see this. You go, it's admin, year-end gateway, year-end gateway. Yes, we duplicate things. And then if you go to the next screen, it's the same concept as the checklist, but it's all online. What you're doing, if there's a report, that hyperlink takes you right to the report. It tells you if it's required or not. It gives you the due date. If it's overdue, it will highlight. So you've got overdue steps. Once it's completed, you check the completed box. It'll populate with the date and with the username of the person who did it. So you can track what's been done and what needs to be done. It's filterable by a whole bunch of, completed, not completed, required, all of that stuff. So you can stay on top of your year end. It is a little easier if you're mid-market because a lot of the stuff is handled automatically by UKG. So there are fewer steps for a mid-market employee or client.
Great.
So, yeah, I like it. It's really cool.
I'm just curious of how many people know about this. So if you know about this and you're using it, drop it in the chat. Great information. Great information. So let's see here. So, we talk about, and it's been pretty evident in this, the different levels of complexities and the nuances and everything else. And, as far as like how we could be an advocate, or if somebody's maybe watching this today and they're asking themselves, well, I think I got this handle, or, how do I know if I should leverage a partner? Like, here's some things that internally, how we could assist. So let's just speak to that quickly in regard to how would they leverage us, and then what would that look like?
So we're especially useful. This is your first year end with UKG. This is your first year end in a new company with UKG. So there's going to be stuff you don't necessarily know. The things we can offer, obviously, you're going to get a dedicated consultant to help you. You're not going to open a ticket, and whichever Tom, Dick, or Harry gets it is going to be the one who calls you back. You'll get me, and I'm the one who will answer all of your questions.
Okay, hold on a second. So you're saying if they work with us, they actually get to work directly with you?
If they win the lottery, yes.
Uh-oh.
I'm not the only one. We do have a number of people who can do this, but you might luck out and get me.
Wow, okay.
So you get a dedicated person.
I don't know, if I was watching this today and I had the chance to work with you, I think that would give me kind of a peace of mind in my company. So yeah, if you win the lottery, you get a May.
You win the lottery, or send me chocolate chip cookies and I'll just tell them I'll take it. So you get somebody. I'm not slamming the other people because we are all really good. But we can assist you with the adjustments. People are not always comfortable with adjustments, reversing payroll and having to put it back in. We have people here who do it all the time. So we have people who can help you with your adjustments and rebalancing, running those reports and explaining what they mean. Because sometimes if you ask UKG, what does this mean? They'll be like, well, it means you've got negative wages. Okay. What's a negative wage? So we can explain all of that. We can tell you where it's from. We can tell you whether it's something to worry about or something to fix. And this is how you fix it. Or, hey, just ask us. We'll fix it for you. We can generate your W-2s for you, or let the system do it automatically if you want. We can help you with W-2Cs if you don't get your changes in before January 8th. We can, when you do adjustments, there are reports that you need to run before and after. So payment services know what's changed. We'll run those for you. We'll help you open the case for filing the amendment. We'll look at what you've done this year and we'll be like, okay, for next year, let's try A, B, and C. Let's make it smoother so we don't have these problems next year. And we'll also look at, in addition to things you can fix to avoid problems going forward, we can also look at things you fix within your year-end process and make it smoother for you next year. My personal goal, don't tell my manager, my personal goal with all of our Mosaic clients is to get them to the point where they don't need us. Mm-hmm. They only have to call us for stuff that they're not allowed to touch. Mm-hmm. So that's what you'll get from us. We'll get you there.
Love that. And then at this point, it's interesting because I feel like you and I could go on and talk about this for quite some time because there are a lot of complexities and we only had a short amount of time today. But again, I guess the main question that I have, and again, I know as time goes on, this is out there, we're going to have additional questions that people want to answer. I know probably one of them will be, hey, can you do a full-fledged webinar on this? Because in 24 minutes, there's a lot more questions that I have. But if somebody wants to know like how many W-2s they need, or ordering forms or this and that, what's an answer around that of how they could be able to determine that information?
So if you have a relatively consistent head count, however many you printed last year, plus maybe a 5% fudge factor if you're printing them yourselves, because guarantee if you get exactly the right number, the printer's going to jam. Mm-hmm. Guaranteed. Obviously, not everybody is consistent with their head count. People expand. People add new people. People travel. If you've got somebody who's lived in 5 different places, they're going to get multiple W-2s because the taxes roll over onto additional pages. So one of the things you can do is you can generate your W-2s. You can generate them anytime you want in UKG. So I could generate it today and say, okay, if we printed W-2s today, there's a report I can run and it will say you'll need 492 W-2s.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with that. Let's add a fudge factor. And then, are you going to do a lot of hiring in the next 2 months? Yes, because you're Federal Express and you do a lot of hiring in December. Okay, well, now we're just going to up it based on that. You can get pretty close.
Cool.
So,
well, I want to thank you because I know you're super busy all the time. And again, I have so much respect for you and I love hearing you talk because you have so much passion for this. And again, it's just a testament, first and foremost to you, and then obviously what we do here at Mosaic. So hopefully all of you found this to be beneficial today. And every single week, our intention is to try to bring as much value as we can. Also try to highlight our team here. And most importantly, give you insight to know how to take what you have with UKG, which we feel is a tremendous software system, and really learn how to optimize it. And that's always been our focus, is optimization, how to take what you have to make it better. And anything you do in life, it's that continual improvement of being able to continually being able to iterate to get to the next level. And to Aimee's point, get to the point where you don't need us. Get to the point where you start to really understand it. You get some ideas, you get a trusted advisor to come in to be able to see you through to the promised land. So Aimee, thank you so much for spending the time today. And thank you all for watching the Mosaic Minute. And we look forward to chatting with you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.